Welcome to Small Medium at Large, the podcast where we dive deep into life's biggest questions with a little help from Spirit. The questions for this week's episode come directly from the listeners and match up with the theme from last week. So let's dive in. Here's a great question that someone wrote in, and I think a lot of us can relate to this. And the question is, how can we find time for daily self-care with kids, a full-time job, and everything else? You know, there's a story about Gandhi that I really like that I want to share with you. And it goes that Gandhi's advisors told him they had a very busy day ahead with twice as much to do as usual. So asking if they could skip morning meditation and get to work. And Gandhi's reply was that if they had twice as much work to do, they'd better meditate for twice as long. And so this idea implies that when we are busy and overwhelmed with all of life's moving parts, this is when we especially need to carve out time for self-care, whether it's meditation or exercise or just time alone, whatever it is that allows you to decompress and release stress and feelings of overwhelm. And so the only way this is going to work is if you prioritize self-care and moving it from, the thing that falls last on your to-do list to the very first thing, and just reframing it from being selfish to taking time for our self-care and our needs to the most loving thing that you can do, not only for you, but for everyone around you. Spirit has reminded me time and again that you cannot give what you don't have within you. I know it seems like a really obvious concept, but so often we are running around with our, gas tank is on empty, trying to give. And so you really have to fill up your cup first. So maybe this looks like waking up 30 minutes earlier and making it the very first thing you do. So there's no excuses, right? Or maybe it's that you go to bed 30 minutes later and just build it into your bedtime routine, depending on what it is. Some days you may only have 5 minutes, and that's okay. It's not the amount of time. Think quality over quantity, okay? It's about your intention. It could be 5 minutes for a self-care act. Maybe it's not 7 days a week. Maybe it's just a few days a week. I know for me, the weekdays during the week are way more challenging than the weekends. And sometimes I, only get to do one thing for my self-care during the week, but I make up for it on the weekends. And maybe I'll add in a few things, or I'll do the one thing for a longer period of time. So instead of, cramming in my meditation into, 10 or 15 minutes, maybe on the weekend I spend an hour and a half, kind of counterbalancing the busy week. So I hope that helps. And just quite honestly, the guidance is find time, even if it's a few minutes a day, to put yourself first. You matter. What's the one most powerful thing to do daily? Well, according to Spirit and my personal guidance, is the one most powerful thing, if you had to pick one thing, it would be pray. Prayer is us communicating with the divine. Okay, this is, an opportunity for us to plug into something bigger than ourselves. And when we pray, and when I say pray, I do not mean a formalized prayer that you learn. This is truly informal. It's like talking to your closest friend or family member. Okay, really from your heart, being vulnerable, not having to monitor or censor what you're feeling or thinking. And so when we pray, we are inviting in our, divine spirit, source, God, and our team spirit. And what we're doing in this act of praying is we're giving them permission to intervene and to be a part of our day, acting as co-creators, recognizing we're not alone in this, okay? We have this support system built in, if we choose to call on it. And so when we pray, it could be as simple as short, directives or commands. And sometimes I just, have 5 seconds. And so I will just get out of my head, get into my heart, and simply say, show me, guide me, help me, protect me, be with me. Okay? So it's this idea of setting it and forgetting it. The law of free will says we must invite it in. Okay? Spirit has to honor our boundaries. And unless we give Spirit permission through the act of prayer, they can't intervene unless it's a life-threatening situation. Okay, so the idea here is inviting it in and then letting go. So consider prayer being a technology that we use to change and expand our being, our vessel. Okay, so when we pray, when we ask the divine for help, for strength, for courage, for whatever it is you need in that moment, you are asking to become more like that divine, aspect of yourself, the divinity within you. Okay, so when you pray, you are expanding your vessel to become more light. And that's where we make room for more miracles to enter in. Because when we become more like the divine, we become light, we then attract that frequency of miracle consciousness. And that's where the magic happens. What is the daily practice that you cannot live without? For me, daily intention setting and energetically lining up my day before getting out of bed, this is the one thing that it's just become, a daily habit for me. For me, what I've come to understand is that energy follows intention. It is law. That's just how it works. So when I get clear on my intentions and then I give it some attention, that's when, I can really realize that those desires are being called into my reality, because where attention goes, energy flows. So this daily practice is what I like to refer to as, energetically lining up my day. And so this is where, before I even lift my head from my pillow, I just invite in my team spirit. I ask for divine spirit source to be present with me, to help me co-create a day of heaven on earth, full of grace, ease, joy, miracles, synchronicities, and flow. And all you have to do from that intentional place is, from your heart, cast it out there. Let it go. And then go about your day and watch. You will notice you are in more ease and flow as you are simply just showing up to your life, just being and witnessing the magic versus efforting your way from your ego self. How do I achieve balance? Okay, so balance is, let's talk about this from physically speaking and then spiritually speaking. Physically speaking, what Spirit has taught me is that balance really depends upon healthy boundaries. Okay. And that's recognizing when, what's yours to do and what's not yours to do. And then honoring that guidance. Okay. Only putting your time and energy into those things that are a part of your soul contract, the things that you came into this world to work with, to learn, to heal, and to bring balance into. I know for me, I've been working with this, codependency, and referring to high functioning codependency, meaning over functioning, over giving, overdoing. And that, what I've learned, is a form of covert control. So, if the situation is resolved or if that person is okay, then I'm okay. Okay. It's this need to feel in control and to feel safe and secure. But with doing that, I've paid the price, and that leads to burnout on a lot of levels. And so you have to ask yourself, what is mine to carry? What is mine to do? And what's not mine to carry? What's not mine to do? And then make it a priority to stay in your own lane. That's the healthy boundary piece. And then spiritually speaking, how do you achieve balance? Well, this is all about attuning your vibration to the frequency of harmony and balance. And what Spirit has taught me is you can run rainbow light through your mind, body, and aura. Okay, so whether you just close your eyes and visualize rainbow light running through you and filling every level and layer of your being, or sometimes what I do is if I'm having a hard time visualizing it, I get out a blank piece of paper and my colored pencils or markers, and I literally just start drawing rainbows. Or I'll draw an outline of my body and I will literally color it in with rainbow light. Okay? Rainbow vibrates at the frequency of harmony and balance. And that's why when you can intend for rainbow energy to incorporate into you and through you, you are literally becoming that frequency. How do I let go of the victim mentality that says there's never enough time for me? How do I let go of self-judgment when I take the necessary time for myself? Okay, so what Spirit has shown me with this is that we need to first recognize that there's programming going on here, programming of scarcity and lack consciousness. Anytime you start talking about never enough of something, you know you're working with the illusion of scarcity and lack. And so this requires us to break agreements with this programming. So whether it came from your ancestral line, okay, it's your elders, your ancestors passing down this lower level of consciousness, or, childhood conditioning, being around people, caregivers, your environment that has cemented in this idea, this illusion of there's never enough. Either way, that's an indication that you need to break that karma. And Spirit has also taught me that this also is about a worth issue. Okay. So when we go into self-judgment, that it's selfish, let's say, to take the necessary time for myself, you have to really look at this as, okay, so what is that saying? If I can't honor and value me and the importance of putting myself first. So this is really coming down to a self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem issue that is in order here that we need to pay attention to. You matter. Your needs matter. Your wants and desires matter. Okay? And so this is really about a call for more self-love, self-worth. And so what my guides have taught me is that when we pray for compassion for ourselves, to allow ourselves the grace and the space to really be real about what we feel, to forgive ourselves for going into judgment, that inner critic that tells us the lies, the illusion, that there is never enough, or that, we don't matter, or that it's selfish, to take the time for self-care. And so if you simply just pray and ask Spirit to help you find compassion, forgiveness, to see yourself through divine eyes, okay? And the divine loves us unconditionally. And in that place, you'll soften. And then finally, what Spirit has taught me is that we need to reframe it. By taking the time to practice acts of self-care, you are showing others around you, by example, of what a healthy, whole, and balanced person does to honor one's needs in order to keep showing up fully to their life so that you can be of service to yourself and to others. So think of yourself as being the light. You're being the example of what this looks like. And there in the doing of that, you're giving others permission to do the same for themselves.
Have you ever wondered if it's really possible to connect with Spirit, to hear from your loved ones, angels, and guides? As a spiritual medium, that's my mission, to show you it is possible. That's why I created Rebecca Rosen Live Online, a powerful virtual event where I share live readings, answer your questions, and bring through messages from Spirit. Even if you don't receive a direct reading, you'll walk away with universal wisdom and high vibe energy that comes from sitting in Spirit's presence. Join me September 25th for this unforgettable experience. Grab your spot at RebeccaRosen.com.
I have trouble sleeping, night sweats, and insomnia. How can I self-care when I don't sleep? All right, this is a great question because quite honestly, we all know how awful it is when you don't sleep night after night after night. You know, the body requires sleep and consistent, healthy sleep. And so what I'm hearing to say to you is that the fact you're having trouble sleeping, whether it's due to hormones, I know a lot of us are going through perimenopause or menopause, maybe it's due to a stressful life situation that you're going through, or it could be other health-related conditions, okay? But this is a call for more self-care than ever before. And so what I'm hearing to say is be gentle with yourself. Offer yourself compassion for your situation. And then ask yourself, ask your inner child, ask your higher self, ask your team spirit what it is that you need in this moment, okay, in this day to feel more rested, balanced, and centered. I know for me, for example, a few months ago, I was going through a really stressful time and I wasn't getting restful sleep. I wear one of those Aura rings, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes ignorance is bliss, but when you have the information on how much deep sleep you're getting or not, and what your HRV is saying about your, nervous system, well, mine was completely dysregulated for a very long period of time. And it was showing me I was very run down. And so I prayed on this and I asked Spirit, and what I was shown was sunshine. Okay. First, I didn't really get it, but I know my happy place is in the sun, in warm environments, in particular at the beach. But when I saw the sunshine, what I realized, and this was during the winter, that I needed more sun. Okay. And so I did get one of the sun lamps. That did seem to help. But I also was guided to meet the sunrise in the morning. Okay. So as many days as I could when I was up before the sun would rise, I would find a place where I could see the sunrise. Maybe it was a short walk. Maybe it was just stepping outside my front door. And then also during the day, I would find short bursts, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, where I could truly just sit and soak up the sun. What Spirit, reminded me of was the power of sunlight, especially in the morning. So what it does, it stimulates the production of serotonin, and that's that neurotransmitter associated with feelings of well-being and happiness. And increased serotonin levels can help alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety. It helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Okay, so morning sunlight helps regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle known as that circadian rhythm. And so when we have exposure early in the morning to these light signals, it activates the brain and produces cortisol. So it helps you feel more alert and energized throughout your day, but it in turn can also lead to improved sleep quality. And in turn, that helps your overall mental health. And it reduces stress, okay, and so many other things. So that would be one example of self-care. So self-care suggestions, if you're going through symptoms like, the person who wrote this question described, figure out maybe what that means for you. Maybe it's a bedtime routine that allows you to relax. This is where if you dim the lights and you avoid screens an hour or two before bed, blocking out the blue light, that seems to really help so that you can get better quality sleep and put your body into that parasympathetic state of, rest and relaxation. Figuring out maybe self-care practice that includes managing your stress, like meditation or deep breathing exercises. Or maybe it's some yin yoga at the end of your day. So you just have to ask your higher self, ask your body, what do you need for self-care in this moment? And then from that place, it's really on us to carve out whatever time and, space that we need to honor the guidance that we receive. And so some self-care suggestions, if you're going through symptoms like described, that when I prayed and asked Spirit to answer this question, here's what they showed me. One, maybe establish a relaxing bedtime routine. Okay, so this could include dimming the lights, avoiding screen time an hour or two before going to bed to really, block out the blue light that can mess with the brain waves. Maybe engaging in calming activities like reading a book or taking a warm salt bath. Another would be managing stress. So maybe practicing, techniques like meditation or deep breathing exercises. Something else I was shown was, yin yoga, something that can really move your body into that parasympathetic state to calm your nervous system and really prepare you for some deep restorative sleep. Dietary adjustments, limiting your caffeine or alcohol, throughout your day or in the evening. That will really help regulate your system and help you achieve greater sleep. And then for some, hormone replacement therapy. Maybe you talk to your doctor. This is for women especially. But, a lot of times our hormones can really create disturbances in our sleep and in our overall mental and emotional health and well-being. It's not for everyone, but ask your body, is this something that my body is seeking, to bring balance and harmony into my being? So the bottom line is this. For self-care, it's really on us to make it a priority and to then carve out the time and space that it requires if we really want to be in balance. Any tips for things to add in that are a huge value for little time? This is a great question. I know we all have really busy lives, and the excuse of not enough time often seems to find its way in. I know for myself, and I'm sure for many of you. So for me, I have had to do things really simple, easy, and effective in order to make it a practice. Otherwise, I won't. And so here's what I do. I find ways to clear, ground, connect, and protect. Okay, so for clearing, it can be as simple as when you start to feel off or fragmented, foggy, unclear, this is where you need to call your energy back and then send energy back to anyone or anything that comes to mind. So you just simply set that intention. It takes literally seconds. Just demand your energy come home to you, and then you return whatever energy is not yours, okay, that doesn't belong in your space, back to whoever or wherever it came from. So this is really just having good energetic boundaries. The second thing, grounding. This could look like getting outdoors for a few minutes. Put your bare feet on the earth, in the grass, on the dirt, okay? And just imagine draining out any stress, any anxiety, any overwhelm, any energy that's not of peace and love and light. Let it drain out of you. Another thing is connecting. This could be where you, whether you're outdoors or indoors, you just set an intention to fill back up with source light. So maybe imagine a cord of light from the crown of your head hooking up into the golden sun above you, and then stream down this golden white light. And that can be, you can kill two birds with one stone by then praying and inviting in your higher, beings of light, team spirit, angels and guides, loved ones in spirit into your day. Okay? Setting the intention to connect with only the light of source, divine light and love. And then finally, protect. This is what I call bubble wrap. Before you even start your day, take a few seconds and just imagine putting a giant golden white light bubble around you. So especially before you go into your workplace or go into any meetings or hard conversations or crowded places and spaces. This is where you really want to imagine around your auric field, which expands out, a few feet, 3 to about 6 feet around you, and just set the intention that you are bubble wrapped in this golden white light, and that golden white light absorbs any and all energy that is not of source light. Is there any easy self-care tip you would teach young kids? Great question. This is something I taught my daughter Haven at a very young age. She was probably 5 or 6 when I would drop her off at preschool and, moving into kindergarten. And she would have a lot of anxiety, a lot of separation anxiety. And so we started with tapping, very simple tapping exercise, emotional freedom technique, it's referred to. I've done a lot of content on this. It's in my book, What's Your Heaven? Step-by-step guidance on how to do tapping. But this is a really simplified version, and it's simply about tapping the gamut point. Okay, it's the soft spot about an inch down from your knuckles between the pinky and the ring finger. And what it is, basically, if you tap on the top of your left hand, starting with your left hand, and you just focus on that spot, okay, between your pinky bone and the ring finger bone, that is where you're going to release a lot of chronic stress and anxiety. Okay, it oftentimes gets blocked when we're in these states. And so the next time you feel stressed or anxious, try it and then teach your child how to do this. Okay, it's really simple. So if let's say you're going to tap on your left hand, you take your right hand and just take your 1 or 2 fingers and tap for about a minute or 2. And while you tap, you can teach your child to repeat an affirmation, I am safe, or I am loved. And so with my daughter, I would just say, okay, let's tap here and just say, I am safe, I am loved. I am safe, I am loved. I am safe, I am loved. And you just do it for about a minute. So the more you practice this, the more tapping will help you to downshift out of anxiety and into a relaxed state of mind. Really simple. So I would encourage you to try it first, see, what it does for you. And then if it resonates, teach your child how to do this for themselves. It's really empowering when you learn how to self-regulate and self-soothe.
Thank you for listening to Small Medium at Large. If this episode inspired you, please follow the show and leave a review. It truly helps us reach more people who need these messages. For more resources and upcoming events, visit RebeccaRosen.com and connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Medium Rebecca Rosen.